Right, but, you know, make it clear that of the times, if it's Tuesday, if it's, it says Tuesday and Thursday and time, that means you might conflict with those two. So. Yeah, so, yeah, so when we send it to them, say, on Sunday, tomorrow, this weekend. Yeah, you might wanna ask Michelle how that works. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's Wednesday. Yeah, I thought school was second. They have? What does it say? Oh. Oh. Well, here. All right, let me check the Zoom, let me check our Zoom, open Zoom. Because I can see when the meeting is. Okay, so every Saturday she has family time. That's usually at 7, but it's a recurring meeting, so I can say. And then there's our Thursday night. And that's it. So nothing. Else. She has one tonight. Yeah, and I think they might be on the whole center account. There are two accounts. Right. Yep. I have nothing else tonight. Yeah. And I've got Annie's So maybe you might want to try. It's not in for me. I'm trying to figure out the interview schedule for next week.
Recording was somewhere else, I'm forgetting.
Actually, I'm not sure if people are sending me the
It says it's recording now. Video. Okay, so now we need to get you set up.
And it automatically puts everybody in.
No, we have to.
Oh,
We have
she
to
had
let
it,
people in.
she had it set up so
Oh, maybe it does, I don't know.
that they automatically came in.
Yeah, you could be 100%.
I hope so, because I always mess that up. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Ellen.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, Nancy.
Hello.
I don't know. We weren't involved with that process last year. Because Crystal sent them everything.
Could help, I guess.
So thank you for telling me. Do not know.
I think it's going straight to the board of finance.
It's not just a cat. Oh,
No. And I've done this a million times and I just don't remember.
there you go.
Alrighty, and then you want it like this.
Yeah, we can.
Everything's
So I got a little bit of this and get this in.
Oh, you want it on your paper?
I want this, yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's good. Maybe a little bit closer if you can. Does it have to zoom on the camera? Sometimes she does. I thought she zoomed some. Didn't seem like she had to move the whole thing. I don't know. I may be wrong.
Well, 4:15.
You here at 4?
No. You leave at 4:15.
Okay.
Maybe just move it a little closer. It'll be all right.
But I don't know how to do it. I'm just not finding the Zoom thing, but it's
Yeah.
not of these laser brushes I've done those afterwards, so
Oh, that's all right.
stop.
Yeah, maybe just move it. Oh, it won't go.
Any further.
Yeah.
So it's definitely.
So there is a way to get it a little closer. Yeah.
So let's see. What did you say for now that I can-
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Link
I
in there.
thought you were calling about the
Yeah.
Hi
Hi,
guys.
Cheryl.
Thanks,
Hi,
Ellen.
Cheryl. Hi,
Lisa.
Cheryl.
Hi, Linda.
Hmm.
Well, you saw what I did the last time you
Yeah, and if this can't move any closer, but because of the leg, it's. Mm-hmm. Probably.
Yeah. I hope so. I really don't want to have to go back to the career center. I'd much rather just do that.
Hi, Brenda.
Oh, have my tone off. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's it. Because I'm usually not in the picture at all and I can see the front of my shirt. Could be. I guess this is just very light this time. That should be good. I think once I start painting, they can see it okay. They see it larger than I do, I think, anyway.
No,
Yeah,
but that's, I think, close.
yeah, I think so too. Should be good then.
It looks like everybody's coming in on their own, so that's
Yeah,
good news too.
yeah, good. That is. And we are on record.
There was a record button before, right here.
Okay, sounds good.
Is this too close, Mary? Or do you want-
No,
if I-
yeah. Usually the leg is behind my chair, so make sure.
Yeah, it is. It's behind your chair.
Yeah, I usually, because I pay attention to that, so. Okay, looks good.
Yeah, looks like we've got it going.
Thank you very much.
Well, it is free now, so we,
Okay, very good.
okay, good luck. I'll shut this door.
Thank you.
If you need anything, you know where I am.
Okay. Hi, Luann.
Hi, Linda.
And Maureen there?
Actually, she's coming in on her own. She got her second vaccine today. She wasn't feeling well.
Oh, that's too bad.
I know.
I think I said hi to everybody else. Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Audrey won't be here today.
Okay. So I think we're waiting on just Louise and Jean maybe. Well, it is 3:01. So I think that my painting, the line, pencil line drawing might be a little light on this one. Can you see it okay? Are we as close as we usually are? Because we had a little bit of adjusting.
I can see it.
I think once I start painting,
Yeah, I should see it.
okay. Okay, we got the blue wash in, and the first thing I think we'll do is put a light wash on the pump. It's a very, very light wash of the Indian red. Was everybody able to get Indian red?
Yeah.
If
I
you
do-
didn't,
I do not.
all right, you mix cadmium and burnt sienna.
Okay, that's what it looked like it would do.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing. So if you look at your color print, I know the prints aren't that great on this pump, but you can see some light, very light areas. The rings that go around the faucet part, a ring at the bottom of the base, and a ring here. Put this down on the side, a highlight on the side. Up at the top cap, there's a light spot there. So we're going for that light, very pale Indian red.
MENEDE4
Oh, she's giving her
at
the link.
gmail.com.
Okay. So, I probably use a number 5.
I do. Actually, this is for my girlfriend Maureen. I've never given her email. We thought we'd be painting together today, but she's not feeling well.
Oh, is she all set then?
Have to go find the link, so bear with me.
Okay.
I'd use probably a number 5 brush, a medium-sized round brush to get these colors in, this color. And you're gonna take, mix it on your palette with some water. So the Indian red, make a little pool of it on your palette. You can change the color up a little bit and add some burnt sienna if you like a little more rusty look. fact, I think I will. Mine, the original here that I have looks a
I'm
little
good.
more with, like there's a little burnt sienna in it. So why don't we take the Indian red and actually add some burnt sienna to it. So make yourself a really good sized puddles of this.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Make yourself a good sized puddle of the Indian red with burnt sienna. So you have enough to get the whole thing covered. And I guess I would start with wet on wet. That way when you put the color on, it'll come out lighter. So let's go over, I'm gonna start at the top of the pump right here on the little cap. And then down the front. I'm gonna skip that little, this middle plunger, the thing that goes down into the pump, the rod here. You don't need to put any light color on that. That's very dark. So we'll just do that. That doesn't have any highlights on it. So we're gonna paint in this over this cap over the base, over the main pump, down into the rounded part, the middle ball, over into the faucet. Just wet it anywhere, you know, just as long as you, no real order that you have to do it in, just as long as you get it all wet. And I'm wetting it first so that when I put the color on, it will come out nice and light. If you have not masked out the leaves that go in front of the pump, just go around them the best you can. You don't really want to get any of this red on the leaves, or you'll have, you can, but you mean you just have to make the leaves fairly dark to cover the red. So, and then I'm going to go up and do the handle. And I did the inside part of the handle. I think I'm going to stop and do the actual handle afterwards, because I'm afraid this is going to dry too fast. So now I'm going to take, I've got most of it wet. I've got this little bar wet, but not the handle right now, just so that I save some time and make sure that everything stays nice and wet. And then take the very light raw sienna Indian red mix. See how light that is? Very, very pale. We're going to be re-wetting this when we come in and start shading. But this is these are the highlights that show up. So we're just going to wet this and let it dry. Lots of water. You can always go back and add water right to your paper as well.
So Linda, was this wet on wet?
Yes.
Okay.
Wet it first so that when you drop the color in, it'll stay nice and light. We want this wash to be very, very light. Indian red burnt sienna mix. Oh, Anne's not here today. Is she okay?
She's okay. She's gone skiing today, so she won't make it back in time.
Oh, okay. And so you'll know too, I got some good news. Mary Ann is getting married today.
Mary Ann and Mario?
And Mario, yeah.
I didn't know they weren't married.
I know, I didn't either. Yeah, he's down at the VA hospital, unfortunately, but so that's why she's not with us. So now I'm wetting the spout, very pale, because it has a highlight over the top that we want to see. The thing we're doing is getting this underneath wash in, and then we're going to be leaving highlights of this wash when we start the shading. And those of you that were in, I don't know if any of you were in the class with Ruth Morton, or if you know Ruth Morton. Luann, did you have classes with Ruth Morton?
I did.
Yeah, she passed away.
I thought that was quite some time ago she had passed away.
I heard it about a month ago.
She's the one, the blonde with the bob?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was a while ago.
Oh. I guess she had COVID and went into a nursing home, and
Oh, then I was misinformed. I thought she had passed before the COVID.
oh, I don't think so.
No, that's too bad.
Yeah. She's the one that used to go kayaking and everything.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm going to do the handle now that I've got, make sure everything else got nice and light. Now I'm just wetting the handle with clean water. And then dropping in the light wash of the Indian red burnt sienna mix. Okay. So the pump has just got that nice light wash, which we're going to be leaving a little bits of it showing, not really that much of it, but it has to be on there first. A little messy here. Okay, we'll let that dry. I'll let you go ahead and finish up. You can see my picture as close as usual, because is it close enough? The painting? Okay, good, because we had a little trouble adjusting the camera today. Why don't we do the green next, at least the grass area? Not the grasses, not the blades of grass, but the base ground cover. And that is sap green. Hi, Maureen.
Hi, I see everyone but you.
Yeah, that's the way it always is. You can just see my hand, I guess.
Oh, okay, all right, I see you
Yeah.
now.
Can you see the picture, the painting?
Yes, thank you, okay.
Okay, good. We're working on paint. We painted the pump in with a very pale wash of Indian red and burnt sienna. The whole pump gets a very pale wash of that. And
Okay,
that color
I've
is
done
gonna
that.
be, you did that?
Yes,
Oh, okay, good. You caught, I didn't catch you coming in so soon. Okay, good. Okay, so the green is sap green, and you can do some sap green with some yellow in it if you want to lighten it a little bit. If you don't have sap green, you can make your green with ultramarine blue and lemon yellow. So we're going to wet the ground area. It comes about a quarter of an inch up on the side of the bucket. It's above the bottom of the bucket by anywhere from a quarter to a half inch on the side of the bucket. We're gonna wet. I'm tinting it so you can see it. I want to sort of avoid the leaves the best I can and just get a wash of pale green on here, really light to start with. If you've masked out the leaves, you'll have an easier time of it to get the green in. But if you haven't, just kind of paint around them. They're going to be green anyway, so it's not crucial if you do get some of this green on the leaves. It's going to be light enough. Now kind of match it up on the side over here, just to the tip of the bending over leaf. Right about there is where we're going to bring the green to. Right to the tip of that leaf that's bent to the left. So I've got a light wash and it's really wet, hopefully. I wet it. I'm gonna re-wet it a little bit. Make sure that this first wash is really light and really wet. And then the same color, sap green. And I'm still using the big brush, but you can switch to a smaller round brush if you want to. If you do use the flat brush, use it on the edge and drop in some strokes of darker green. Skip around, leave some of the pale color still showing. This doesn't really look like sap green to me. There we go, it's better. So I'm leaving just little tiny bits of the first wash. The original painting is a little more filled in with the darker green, but you can leave a few little highlighted spots. Just a few little, I've got a few little light spots of the original light wash. And then over here, back and forth with the brush, horizontally, I'm using the edge of the brush and fill in some different values of green. So some will have more water in them and some will have more paint, so that you can get a light and a dark and a medium. Up into the bottom of the pump here. And now I'm coming in a little darker. I've got actually a little bit of burnt sienna mixed in with it to get a few little dark spots. Right under the pump can be dark, and a few little dark strokes over here, but leave some of the previous colors still showing. So you have a variety of colors, values of green in there. And then the grasses are going to be coming out of these darker spots. So the grasses really fill up the area quite a bit. So it's not crucial that this is perfect. Okay, I can't do the bucket yet because the grass is wet, but the pump seems to be pretty well dry. So we can go back now, and starting at the top of the pump, we can start doing our shading. On the handle, we want to fill it in this rounded kind of almost like an S shape of the handle, not the base that's attached, but the actual thinner S-like shape, that has to be put in, that has no highlights in it, and it has to be put in into a medium value of the same burnt sienna and Indian red mix. And it'll be a medium value. And then we're gonna do dark accents along this top curve and along the bottom curve on the very left-hand side. So take a smaller brush, maybe a 5, 4, 4, 3, 4, 5, and paint it in. Either wet it first if you want, or directly on the paper with your same wash of Indian red and burnt sienna, only more of a medium value, no, a lot darker than the first wash we put on. Get a little more burnt sienna here. I think I am gonna wet it first so that I get a little bit more blended area. So I'm gonna just quickly just dampen it. So just the S shape of the handle. I'm gonna dampen it a little bit, not much, just a little, just to get a little smoother blending when I drop the color in. And then take the color and drop it in and just sort of swipe it down, kind of control it down. You could leave, let's leave a little highlight right at the top. This very top rounded area, let's leave a little sliver of light there. I think that will work out better. You change things all the time on you. So medium value of this. It's getting a little dark here. If you get too dark, add some more water to your paper, right on your paper. I'm getting really messy today. Go, if it's getting too dark, just take some water and add it into the paper, onto the paper. And you can continue over into the other little clampy thing there that goes right to the handle. And you can paint that in also in a medium value. Next section over. And carry your color over and into another medium value here. That's going to be shaded again later after it dries as well. And then get that little, I guess it's like a backwards E or something, I guess. Now carrying over the color, be careful here, going into this little section that is the cap that goes over the top of the pump. There's a little, almost a triangular shape that you're gonna leave the light that we first put on. So I'm gonna outline that right now. Just the little, oh, it's almost a rectangle. And then down to the end. So if you see what I've outlined, everything below what my outline is going to be left the light value, the first color we put on. I'll leave that for a minute so you can see where the outline goes. And look at your color print. So now above that line that I just made, the rest of the area above that does get filled in a medium value. So now we've got the light spot and down across the bottom. Get a little run back here. If it runs into the other portion, just light pressure feather it out. So you should have something that looks like that. Keep your color reference handy. It'll be easier for you too, I think. In the top section of the pump, just below what we just did, has two light side edges, just thin highlighted edges, one on the left, one on the right. So we're going to draw some shading color down through the middle of it and almost to each edge. We want to wet it first and wet the whole thing even over to the edge that's left light. So up here, just under that little section we just did, just put some clean water, not too much. Doesn't have to be that wet, just enough to get a soft edge when you drop in the next value. And go down just to that ring that goes around the middle of the pump. That's going to be left light, the light value. So take your brush and go back and forth over it a couple of times to make sure you kind of work that water into the paper. We don't want to have a puddly area sitting on top of the paper. We want it damp but worked into the paper so we don't get too fuzzy of an edge. And then we're going to take the medium value again of the burnt sienna Indian red and start in the middle and stroke down. Mine is feathering out quite a bit. I'm going to wait a little bit because it's really starting to feather out. You can see how mine is blossoming over, and I don't want it to go over to each edge, because I want the highlight on each edge on the left and the right, especially on the right. So I'm just waiting a little bit for the paper to absorb more of the water again. That might be pretty good. Now I'm going to skim my brush down along the fuzzy edge. Really light pressure and draw down another line. And now I've left my light edge. And the same thing on the other side, right along the fuzzy edge, just draw down another line. And I've left the thin light edge a little less on the left than on the right. If they don't end up showing up as a different value and you don't get any contrast, you can take afterwards, we'll take a damp brush and wipe out the highlight. Can always do that afterwards. Sometimes it's easier to leave it at first, but if you have to, you can always lift highlights by taking just a damp brush and really pressing it hard against the paper and then then drying it off. Okay, the next little section is the ring that goes around the not a ring, but a little border, very thin. I guess it is a ring, a very thin section that goes around the pump. I'm going to skip that. That's going to be the light that we first put on, our first wash. So wet below that pencil line for that ring and wet this rounded bubble looking thing here, the middle of the pump, down to the other pencil line that forms the outline of another ring that's going to be left light again. And then out to the spout and wet that with just a little bit of water again. We don't want it too puddly, just damp. And you can skim your brush over a couple of times to sort of distribute the water and kind of press it in, moves it into the fibers of the paper. Now there's a really light spot where the light is really hitting the base of this. And that's this little triangular shape right here where the faucet attaches to the base, the rounded base of the pump. There's a really light spot there. So you want to be careful not to get any color on there. Any of this medium value. But we're going to take the medium value again, and we're going to come around the center, around this outside, and across the bottom of that rounded portion. And then we're going to come down through the bottom of the spout, leaving the top light. And just drag in some color right across. Well, there's more shading on dry paper afterwards, so don't worry about not getting it exactly right. What I would have right now is a little light spot in the middle of this circle, and you can take a paper towel or a tissue, and if you did fill in too much of that rounded ball, just tap in a little bit of a tissue and lift out the center of that. feather it out a little bit. The highlights are coming out a little brighter on this piece than on the original, but don't worry about that. You can have them lighter.
Now the closet part, Linda, we're just doing the bottom and leaving a highlight on the top.
Yeah, I tried to leave a highlight on the top edge. So I stroked across the bottom and let it feather up a little bit. I did lose more than I wanted to, so I'm gonna probably lift that out afterwards. And the next section of the pump, am I going too fast? No. The next section down, a little too fast? No? Okay. The next section down just has a little highlight area right beside the top of the bucket. Okay. Just have to leave a little bit of a light spot there. So I'm gonna wet it again. Leave that white ring right here. Leave that light. Right, go under the pencil line for that ring. And go down through the rest of the base, the rest of the pump. Right down between the two leaves. And then don't wet that next ring, the next double line, pencil line. Don't wet that. Just go to the top line. And then the medium value again. Put it in on the left side and let it kind of feather over and leave yourself just a highlight on that right hand top. Get between my leaves here. I'm running out of paint. And then down just to that next pencil line for the next ring that goes around the base. This isn't one of my favorite pictures, but I guess it'll do. Like I said, I'm really running dry on ideas. The next two I like that are coming up, two lighthouses. I really like both of them for a change, so I hope you do. So we're down to about the base of the pump. And the whole base is going to be filled in with a medium value right down to the ground, right down to the green. You can see that it's shaded really dark, but that's done on dry paper later with the dark brown. So you need medium value of the Indian red and the burnt sienna again. And you can wet it under the ring, just go along the pencil line and wet it right over the next pencil line that is drawn around, because we're going to do the shading on dry paper later. So just whatever's left of the pump below the ring, all gets filled in with a medium value.
There are no highlighted areas there.
Right. This is all kind of hidden in between the flowers, so. So all medium value on that base. And we're gonna separate the bottom ring of the base from the rest with dark brown afterwards in a little bit of a different shading technique after everything's dry. And that's about the next step we're gonna do for most of the rest of the pump as well, because it should all be dry by now. So we're gonna do some shading with Indian red with some burnt umber added. My directions that I typed out for you might be different than what I'm doing right now, but Cheryl, is Ann gonna take the March session? Do you know?
Yeah, she is.
So
Yeah,
I'll email her the projects.
thank you, Linda. She'd appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay, sure. And so you all know the projects, the 2 lighthouse projects for March will be here at the senior center at noon tomorrow. Don't have to
What-
wait till next Monday. So they'll be available at noontime Thursday, tomorrow. And the, I didn't specify which was which really, other than looking at them. The Brant Point Lighthouse is the one with the sunset, so that you don't get your directions mixed up. Brant Point Lighthouse in Nantucket is the one with the sunset. The other one says lighthouse with storm clouds, and you can pick that out, no problem.
Can we,
They are very stormy clouds.
or, do we pay by Venmo or just mail a check?
What was that?
Can we pay by Venmo or just mail a check?
Mailing a check would probably be the best.
Made out to you?
Yes, Linda Salisbury, made out to me, would be great. Are you able to get the kit, the projects though,
Yeah,
Maureen?
I'll pick it up on my way to Luann's.
Oh, okay, good.
But I just wanted to send you the check. And how much is it again? Sorry.
30.
Okay.
And we have 5 weeks in March. One is a week that I owe you from when I was out sick. We're gonna do the whole 5 weeks of March.
And mail the check to the senior center?
Actually, when I
Yeah,
go to pick
Yeah,
up,
that would be good.
when I go to pick up my kit, I give them a check made out to her right then, and they pass it over to her. So you can do it all in one fell swoop.
Oh, okay. All right, good. Thank you.
And those of you that paid $22, no, wait a minute. Those of you that paid $30 in last month, I think Lisa, Ellen, and Brenda, I think you all paid $30. So you only have to pay 22 for March.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep. Okay, let's get back into the pump and do some shading. I'm gonna go up into the handle now, and I'm gonna use just burnt umber. by itself. Oops, making a mess here.
Should we be using a smaller brush, Linda?
Yes, a very small brush. If you have like a number 1 would be good. 0 or 1. What we're going to be putting in is the thin line around the top of the handle. And then another one at the bottom of the handle following the curve. So up here on the top curve for about 2 inches, starting about a 1/2 inch from the end, right about here, we're going to put a line of burnt umber that just curves about like that. And we're going to soften it out.
Sorry, Linda, I don't have burnt umber. Can you suggest another color?
Do you have Van Dyke brown?
Yes.
Some of the last kits that were given out had Van Dyke brown.
Okay.
This is dry right on top, yes?
Yes. We're going to soften it in a minute. And then on the lower portion, starting at about midpoint on the handle, we're going to draw another line a little bit from the edge and draw a line down almost to the tip. As thin as you can make it. We're going to thin it down with some water. So
Hello? Hi, Trish. Good, but I'm in the middle of a class. Can I call you back at 4:30?
okay,
Okay, sounds good.
we're going to soften those lines now. So we're going to take a clean, damp brush. And we're going to come back up to that line. And just on the right of the line, you want to hit the line with a damp brush and the other part of the paper. Go back and forth and work that into a thinner line. And it's going to draw out a little color that's going to shade it. Back and forth to thin it down and shade below it or to the right of it. Just go back and forth until you get it thinned right down and it carries out another tone and brings out a little bit of an in-depth, depth like shading. And I'm going to just carry that off to the edge and just feather it out. You only have to do it on the right hand side of the line of the burnt umber line, but you do have to go back and forth with the brush a few times to thin it down and draw out the color into the other side, into the right hand side. Takes a little bit of time. You're going to do the same thing on the lower line. Hit the edge of the dark line and also the Indian red portion, not just on top of the line, but on the edge of the line where it touches the Indian red. Go back and forth, drawing out a little bit of color and thinning down the line. This is to give a little indentation in the pump handle. Back and forth until you get it feathered out. And if it brings out too much of the other value, just spread it out into the rest of the handle. Everybody understand that okay? It's kind of hard to explain, I guess, watching it's the best. And then we're going to do that kind of same kind of shading technique for a lot of the rest of the pump separations between the sections. The next part, we're going to use some burnt umber with some Indian red in it. Either Indian red or burnt sienna. Just to darken it a little bit. And right on dry paper, we're going to separate now the handle from this little bar that comes down to hold the handle. So right in here, right on the edge of the S-shaped handle, we're going to put a little bit of dark brown. And then clean the brush, take off the excess water on a paper towel, and then come into where the dark meets the red, and light pressure on that edge, fill it up, pull it out a little bit and soften the edge. See how that gives a nice little separation of contrast between the handle and that base. That's basically the blending technique for watercolor. You put on your shading color, rinse your brush, tap off the excess water on a paper towel, and then light pressure feather touch where the dark shaded color meets the other color, light feather touch to pull it out into it. Same thing again down at the bottom of that. I call it a backwards E shape. Against the handle again. Dark. About a 1/4 inch of dark, I guess I would say. Maybe 1/8 of an inch. And then rinse the brush, take off the excess water, and then come in and touch the edge of the dark against the red, and light pressure, pull it out into the red. And you should get a nice little blend, little soft edge. And then you see how you've separated now the handle from that other piece because of the contrast. And then the bar plunger type thing. I don't know the actual terms of all these things, but the bar that goes down into the pump. Dark brown, burnt umber, or Van Dyke brown. Did you find Van Dyke brown, Maureen?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Oh, good. Okay, so brown and Indian red mostly brown. You want, this is the very darkest part of the pump. So mostly brown, just a touch of the red, and paint in this bar that goes down, which they would be pushing down into the pump. Plunging down, I guess. Don't do a bumpy one like me. Now, I've told you this technique that I do before, but I like to paint aiming my brush, the point of my brush, towards the line that I want to follow. So in this case, I want a nice crisp edge, and I drew the line down, the point pointing towards the line I want to follow. Now I would take it and turn it upside down so that I can do the other side and still aim the point of the brush towards the line that I want to follow. So when I'm painting, I'm turning my board all the time, back and forth, to make it more comfortable to use your brush. You don't want to have to feel like you got to turn your arm, crook your arm, and try to get in there. Did make it a little bit too wide at the top. Okay, a little more of this brown. Next section down, the cap on the pump. Brown again, separating this backwards E shape that I'm calling it. Right in against that and over into the cap, a little dark spot of brown. A little line on, now we're on this light, we left this light little rectangle. We want to put a little line on the left side of it and a little line on the right side of it. And we're going to shade those out. Rinse your brush again, take the water off. Your brush is still damp, but not dripping water. And then come in and shade that dark into this little dark spot. And then the right-hand side of this dark shape, pulling it over to the right. And there's one little tiny dot of dark right on that light rectangle. There's a little square of dark right in the right on the bottom of that little light rectangle. There are just a few more dark accents. One would be under this cap, and you're going to put just a little line right under the cap and then shade it out again. Dry, rinse your brush and take off the excess water and pull this one down towards the pump base. And if you still have a line showing, which I do, I can see a different tone from the red to the brown. So I'm going to go with that one stops, that next tone brown stops, and I'm going to feather that out as well and bring it back to the red. So get rid of that edge. The next 3 sections are pretty easy, just dark brown. And under, you're just going over your pencil line on the rings that go around. So one right above this round part of the pump, just a solid line of dark. Under the next ring, a solid line of dark. And at the base one, under the light ring, a solid line of dark. There's a little tiny thing that juts out at the faucet part, which the bucket hangs, stops the bucket from falling off. So there's a little tiny rectangle. You can put that in basically any color. I have a brown on my brush, so I'm going to put a little brown jut out, a little rectangle there. And then the handle goes to that on both sides. Can do it in the red as well if you want. I'm going to do a little more shading on the ball part, the center, very center of the pump and the faucet. There's not enough shading, so I'm going to do the same technique and put some brown in there. A brown mixed with Indian red, I should say, I'm sorry. Brown and Indian red. And I'm going to come in the left-hand side about halfway up and down across the bottom, just a little spot, and then up the side and into the lower part of the faucet, like that. So I have kind of outlined that around the bottom of the ball and over the lower edge of the faucet. And the same blending technique again. Rinse your brush and feather out this color.
And was that just the brown, Linda?
I have a little bit of the Indian red in it. Might have to use a little more water with this particular section. There we go. If it's not pulling out good, add a little bit of water to your brush. And we want to feather this out.
And that's going right around the top of the ring.
Yes. We're shading just the lower half of the faucet. Leaving a highlighted edge at the top, a light edge at the top. So about half of it is the darker color and the other is our initial medium tone. So just work back, feathering it out, light pressure, pulling the colors out. If you have to add a little bit of water, you can. Just not much, just don't add too much. That gives it a better look now. Not as good as my original one, but can also do it by wetting that whole section again and dropping the color in while it's wet. Just have to control that it doesn't feather out into your top light edge. And the last little dark spot is at the bottom of the pump. This is the brown again, just by itself. Above the pencil line, a little bit of a line here. And then rinse your brush, take off the water, come in on the edge and pull it up. You can tell I'm gonna have to do that one more time. I'm getting another hard edge. If you get another edge with the secondary color that you're pulling up, just do it one more time and go up to that edge and feather that out. And that's about it for the pump, I think. I think we got it all. So let's work. I'll give you a couple more minutes to finish up if you need it. Anybody pick up one of those Sharpie paint pens?
Nope,
No?
haven't even thought of it.
Oh,
Linda, I went to 2 different Michaels. They were all gone.
oh
They didn't have-
no.
But you can order them on Amazon.
Yeah,
So that's what I
that's
did.
something you can do at any time. It's the very last step of the
Yeah.
lighthouse picture.
And she couldn't tell me when they were getting more in either, because I
Oh.
asked.
Huh.
So
Did you find one, Nancy?
Yeah, I had to look because you had suggested the real fine point,
Yeah.
but I did find them.
Oh, good.
I think I might have gotten only the last 2 that were hanging on the rack.
Yeah. Yeah, Michael's doesn't carry a number of items, only 1 or 2 of everything, seems.
I think it's because of COVID, because I noticed their supply of everything has dwindled.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe because of COVID.
Yeah.
So
Well, they say everybody's crafting, everybody's doing
Yeah.
things at home, so.
If anybody is a gardener and you usually get like vegetable seeds and stuff like that, I would advise that you put your order in now, because I'm finding that a lot of them are already sold out.
Mm. That's a good point. Okay, we will work on the bucket.
Okay.
And we're going to be using ultramarine blue and burnt umber to make a gray. Starts with a gray wash. And we're gonna, might want to get a little bit of burnt sienna ready too. Not mixed in with it, but just a little puddle of burnt sienna. Ultramarine blue and burnt umber. Mostly blue to make it grayer. And a lot of water to make it light.
My shoes.
Now, it doesn't matter, and it's actually better that this is not a perfectly nice flat wash. So I'm going to paint it right on dry paper and not really worry about whether it's a nice flat even wash. I'm going to come in hopefully you've masked out your tulip. I didn't. We're gonna come in and just base in some patches of the gray. Leave a little thin edge at the top of the bucket. Okay, right at the handle edge. Leave a little thin line. If you look at the original print, the color print, you can see a little edge of white or light color. Put it in light color after. So just base in some of this gray. Like I said, it can be all mottled looking, it can be different values, but overall on the light side. And do the inside as well, but leave that little light edge. Don't try not to fill in the little edge that we left on the top of the bucket. If you do cover it, it can be put in with white. The white paint pen would be an excellent way to do it, or any white, or even scraping it out with an X-Acto knife. So we get the inside of the bucket and a little thin line between the inside of the bucket and the side of the bucket. And then the gray over the rest. And I'll let that dry. While that's drying, we could do a couple of leaves, and all the leaves are basically done the same. Sap green. You can do some sap green with yellow if you want to add a little yellow to lighten some of them, you can. The more colors and variety you get, the more interesting your painting's going to be. So if you want to add a third green, I have like 2 values of green. If you want to, I'm going to add a little yellow to the sap green this time. So my first wash, let me do this one right here in the middle of the pump. I'm going to just base it in with a light green. Then I'm going to take a little darker right off the little mound of paint that I have, and not really mixed with any water. A darker sap green, and drop it in kind of random in just a couple of spots, just like that. A little bit on the side, a little bit near the middle. Anywhere on the leaf, a couple of random spots of darker green. See how that gives you a little more interest than the flat green. And all of the leaves are done the same way, wet with a light wash of the green, and the green can be mixed with some yellow. If you do mix the sap green with yellow and make a lighter value, when you go to put this darker tone in, it'll pop a little more because you'll have more contrast. I'll do one more here, and I'll let you go ahead and do these on your own. You don't really need to sit and watch me paint every leaf. They're all the same, basically. So I'm sure you can do it on your own. Light green and yellow on this one in the center. Dark, just with hardly any water, right off the little clump of paint in the palette, just enough to wet it to get some on the brush. And then I'm gonna come in the side here with a little bit down into the bottom. Just maybe one side on that one. Thin that out a little bit. Now just try to get two tones on the leaves. That's basically what you want to do. The more the better, but try to get at least a light and a dark, or a light and a medium. I would keep them on the light side because the grasses are darker. When we go to put the grasses in, the grasses overall are darker than the leaves. Okay, bucket should be done, dry. I'm going to come in now with some darker tones of the gray. So not as much water mixed with my gray. I'm going to mix up another gray that's a little bit darker than that first wash. And I'm going to kind of take a small brush. This is a number 1, I believe. And I'm going to come on the left-hand side, and I'm going to just kind of scruff it in. Then make a patch of it like I just did. Then take some water and soften it. Bring it down to the bottom in the dark. And then just kind of scruff it up with the brush, with a damp brush. So you get another tone in there. And I'm going to take some of that same mix with a little more brown in it. Do the same thing, maybe right in the middle here. Scruff in a little patch like that. Okay, just take the flat side of your brush and just rough it in. That's why you want a small brush. Rinse the brush, and you don't have to take the water off this time. Just rinse the brush. So you've got more water, a little bit of water on your brush. Come in where you've scruffed it in and wet it, and kind of pull it out. Kind of a scruffy technique again.
Linda, what color are you using there?
That has burnt umber.
Okay. Thank
In the
you.
gray, it's the gray, the same gray, but a little more brown in it, or Van Dyke brown, or
Okay,
burnt
just
umber.
darker.
Yeah. So I get some with a little more brown. And I'm gonna, while that little patch I just scruffed up is damp, I'm gonna drop in a little burnt sienna. That's making it look a little rusty. So a little burnt sienna dropped into this damp section. And maybe I'll pull a little burnt sienna down into the middle here. And you can take some water and just drop it in if you want. That'll make some nice little watermarks that'll make it look really rustic. Drop in a little bit of water. There we go. I got a little bit of a puddle here. When that dries, it's going to make a nice little rusty spot. So you just basically scruff in some color and then scruff in some water. And then the other side, on the other side of the leaf, I'm going to come in a little bit with a little darker tone, but I'm going to leave some of the light, the first wash, still showing, and just patch in a little bit of dark and then scruff it up a little bit. So you just get some different tones of grays and browns, some hard edges, some soft edges. You can just play around with dropping in color and while it's damp, and dropping in just water. That'll make a little water ring. That adds to the, make it look old. And then what really makes this pop is the inside shadow. If you cover everything up, well, you probably have your tulips masked out, but if you take some paper towel, cover everything else above except the bucket. So I'm gonna tear this, cover my grass, and I'm gonna do a little spattering with the gray and the brown. So the gray mix that we made for the bucket, and add some brown to it. And I'm gonna snap the brush off my finger and just spatter in a little bit on the bucket, just a little. You don't have to do that, but it adds a little bit of interest. And then remember that anytime you spatter, you can go back in with a little bit of water on your brush and wet those spatters and get another tone. And then we want a dark, very dark, for the inside of the bucket. The shadow inside the bucket. It's really important that you leave a light area on the left. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to just draw out where I'm going to put my shadow from that line over to the right, leaving this little white light spot. And then all this, drag it over and fill it in, except that you want to leave that little thin edge on the very top edge of the bucket. That really makes it pop. And I used a ink pen, a felt marker pen, like the red ones I gave you, or the Micron Pigma, to do the handle. You can do it with a brush if you want to. And after the bucket dries, that little, it's still wet, the little round circle where the handle attaches to the bucket, that's done in a dark gray. your tulips can be done in any color that you want. The basic technique for the tulips is that the petals change value where they touch each other. The easiest way to do it on these, they're so small and there's not many petals, is to have the center petal the lightest, and then the two side by side of the middle petal a little darker, and then either a light back petal or a dark back petal. There's really only 4 sections to this. I like the cobalt violet a lot. I don't know if you like that color, but I think that's what I used. I'm gonna use alizarin and just do one petal, one center petal, just to show you how to do the center one. I'm gonna do a light wash, very light. No, that's too light. So the center petals can be this light wash. It's a little too dark. If it comes out too dark, take your damp brush and just go back over it and lift a little color with a just a clean brush. So I've got a light, pretty light center petal, and then taking the paint right off the little mound in the palette and just taking enough on a damp brush so that it moves. So it's pretty dark because it's right off the color, right off the little mound of color. And I'm going to put just a couple little touches of it here and there, just like that. It's kind of fun to just drop it in. So your center petals can all be done. We're not going to have time to do them all in class. I think it's almost 4:30, but all the center petals, do a wash, a light wash, and then take a darker tone of the same color, drop in a couple little random spots. And then now going into the next section, the 2 petals that touch that, I don't know if they're gonna run together because it's still wet, but I want to come in here and come in darker. There we go. So I've got dark against light. So when you drop in these little dark accents here on the light petal, don't put them too close to the outside edges because then they're going to blend in with the next petal that you put down. So I'm going to do another dark one on this side. But you've done a lot of flowers where you've done the contrast between the darks and lights. Any color that you want. I think I used cobalt violet, which is more of a pink really, but it's a nice color. I think the pump is dry. I can put the little dark circle in where the handle attaches. Just a little dark circle with maybe a little highlight, a little light spot in the middle of it. And then if you want to do the handle with the brush, you can. Come down. And then the back side. Or you can do the pen. Micron Pigma pens are nice to have in your supplies. I use those a lot of times to sign my paintings too. I also have a Pen, Lepen, that I found in the scrapbooking section. It comes in all different colors. So I picked up a brown one and I like that for a lot of signing my work with. If it's a landscape, it's a nice brown. Sometimes I just sign in pencil too, so. So the grasses, very easy with your liner brush. Mix up 3, if you can, at least 2 values of sap green and sap green with ultramarine blue. Big puddle of color. Remember how you roll the brush, the liner brush. Roll it into the puddle so that you load the whole length of the bristles. Just lay it flat and roll it in. And hold the brush kind of at least at the middle, not right down near the bristles, but I hold it up more to the top or the end and loosely draw out the lines. So I do it in the direction the grass grows, and all these little clumps of grass, you're going to go down and draw up the lines, give them some curve. I'm kind of curving towards the bucket just to kind of draw your eye into the center of interest. Got a big blob right there. And you can follow the color print for this positioning if you want to, or you just make your own position, own clumps, whatever way you want to put them in. So I would do all the sap green first, make it nice and thick, and then I would do sap green mixed with ultramarine blue. And do some more on top. Not as many of the real dark ones, but a few. So you're
Linda,
gonna
what size brush did you use for the grass?
I used a liner brush, which is a brush that has longer bristles. I don't know that you got one in the kit. I don't think you did.
I think I have one.
Let me hold it up to the screen so you can see the if you can see the bristles are about 4 or 5 times longer than the normal brush.
Okay, thank you.
And that's a good one to have on hand. We use it for branches on trees, grasses. If you don't have a liner brush, I would get about a number 1 liner.
Okay, thank you.
You can also use a small round brush. The advantage of the liner is that it holds more paint, so you can get that whole stroke of a blade of grass all in one swoop.
Ah, I have one.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Yep. So you can finish up, I think, on your own. I think we covered all the techniques, and you can finish up grasses, leaves, and flowers on your own. If that's okay with you. You don't, okay. So the only thing you need to know is that you can pick up the next 2 projects tomorrow at noontime. And we'll be doing the sunset first. If you don't want to transfer both of them at this, right away, we're going to do the sunset first. And that will be next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. I hope this Wednesday time frame is working okay for everybody. It works really well for me, so I'm hoping. Does anybody have a problem with this time frame?
Nope.
I want my class enough that whatever time suits you, suits me.
Oh, great.
Thank you so much, Linda. This has been great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Linda. It's keeping us all sane.
Good, good.
Right,
We need
right.
that. I know. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Thanks, Linda.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
See you next week.
Okay.
Bye, Nance.
Because they're meeting for all, and I don't see that.